Awesome. So again, welcome everybody to Close More Deals. Let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, this model is very straightforward, but first I want to get you thinking. Ask for the close early and ask often. The psychology behind this is the average person will say no 7 times before they say yes. So if we can strategically and professionally eliminate some of those no's, we get closer and closer to a yes. Statistics show us that 10% of people will always buy, 10% of people will never buy, 80% is up to us. So what I want to work with you guys on tonight is, can we increase the 80% to buyers? All right. So just out of curiosity, and you guys don't have to share here, but out of curiosity, what is one aspect, one tool, one process, anything within your business that would help you close more deals? I'm not talking about client acquisition. I know that's going to be a big one for us, but past client acquisition, we're in front of the clients. What are some things that would help you guys close more deals? Just out of curiosity.
Hey, Keegan, one of the things that I'm working with a PhD in value-based pricing.
Hmm.
And the better you can express the value of what you deliver to your customers and for their customers, the easier a decision it is.
Love that. Simplifying, value-based. That's incredible. Value-based pricing. I love that, man. I would love to dive into that with you a little bit more as well. Anybody else want to share? Awesome. So go ahead.
I think results first. Putting the results of what you offer to that client. The high accolades of the results is important to close the deal.
Absolutely, Hakeem. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, listen, this isn't about being slimy or sleazy or trying to pull one over on somebody. The truth of the matter is, if you have a good product or service, we are just helping the person make the decision. I know that I can solve the problem you face. As the professional, it's my responsibility to convey that value to you, like Hakeem was talking about, right? So let's go ahead and kick it off with this model. And again, this is something that is easy to implement. We want to simplify this, like Daniel was talking about. So I'm going to tell you this as well. This process will work with your significant other. This process will work with your children. This process works in closing deals. It's a proven psychological strategy. Okay. And I'm going to send this out to everybody, by the way. So you all are going to receive this document. Number one question, right? Let's portray this. Let's say that you have a child or 2 children. You're in the other room, you hear glass break. Do you immediately go to assumption? The best thing we can do is ask questions. If we are closing a deal, we want to bring the walls down. Yes, we are the professional, but in order for us to understand, we need to have an element of curiosity, asking questions, right? So we never want to make the assumptions. I'll share this with you directly. When I was in the financial world and we used to do face-to-face appointments, I drove an hour and a half out to this one appointment. I show up, it's a trailer, and there's trash all over the place. And my first thought is, they can't buy, they can't afford this, right? I assumed before I walked into the environment. Walked into the trailer, and it happened to be my largest sale to date that I had ever closed at that point. They inherited a whole bunch of money. They needed the product. So again, we never want to assume. We don't want to be confrontational. We have to ask questions. We have to be curious. When people feel attacked, you're not going to get to the end result. Just that simple. So ask good question. Here's a couple examples for you guys, right? And this would be in the context of, we probably have already asked for the close. They probably said no, right? Hey, no problem. Let me ask you this though, not confrontational, right? I'm curious, what's behind that? Can you tell me a little more about this? Okay, you want to, but you need to make sure and think about it, right? You guys ever got any of these? But asking that question. Anybody have any thoughts, questions, comments on this before I go to the next part? Awesome. All right, so we've asked the question. The next piece in you, the quiet model, we need to understand one of the most meaningful things you can do is put effort into understanding the other person, right? Whether you win the debate or do not win the debate, close the sale, don't close the sale, it shows more about your character. People will not always remember what you said, they will remember how you made them feel. So when you put your energy into understanding somebody, and I can say this because we're all men on this call right now, especially men. I mean, how many environments are there where people actually stop, listen to you, and are curious about what you're thinking? So ask the question and then understand. So what that looks like is, hey, Bernie, I'm curious what's behind that. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I completely understand. I can certainly see why you feel that way. If I were in your shoes, I'd probably be feeling the same way, right? You ask the question, bring the walls down, and then understand. Everybody good so far? Awesome. We've asked the question, brought the walls down. We've come from a place of understanding. Now we must identify the actual objection. And this is one of the most pivotal pieces in closing any deal, right? We move from understanding, re-identifying their point of concern, and now we're getting closer to a yes, right? So they are agreeing to the pain point that we have addressed. This is what that would sound like. So Matt, you like this avenue, you see the benefit here. It's just a little bit too much, fill in the blank, time, money, risk. You don't have the information, right? Okay, so you like this option. You know you would gain value from it. It's just a little bit too much for the budget. Is that right? Okay, so you like this service. You just don't want to jump into a decision right now. Okay, everybody good with me so far? We've asked the question, we have understood, and we've specifically identified their pain point. Okay, and there's a bunch of examples at the bottom. You guys are going to see all these, by the way. All right, QUIE. We're almost through this. The E is empathize. So to reduce reactionary stances, right? When emotion is high, logic is low, right? So we want to eliminate the emotion, eliminate the reaction. We must take ourselves out emotionally, okay? So it is helpful to focus on just the facts. We must understand this is their viewpoint. Our viewpoint may be different. We're neutralizing the need to focus on feelings. That's what we're talking about with empathize. So what that would sound like is agreement. Hey, I agree. I totally understand, Will. I can see why you'd feel that way. Absolutely. If I put myself in your shoes, I'd take the same stance. We've asked the question, we've understood, we've identified, and now we're empathizing. We're removing the emotion. So now that we've done all of these steps, we have to test it. This is where we move into the actual close. Okay? So we've understood, we've identified the objection. Now we're handling the objections. This keeps us on track and allows us to redirect back to the close. All right? So, however, step into the objection cycle. Okay? So I'm going to stop here really quickly. And again, you guys are going to receive this document. Any questions, thoughts, concerns up to this point? Awesome. So
Sounds good.
my man, I'm going to throw this in the chat really quick for everybody. If you can, guys, I'm going to ask everybody, and I apologize I didn't do this before. I'm going to ask everybody to hop on a quick 15-minute call for me. I'm not going to try to sell you anything, all right? This is simply a call where I have 3 very simple questions to see the value that you gained from this, see if you have any comments or feedback from me, and we'll just leave it at that. So if you guys can, go ahead and schedule a quick call with me. I promise it's only going to be 10 or 15 minutes. I'm not going to sell you guys anything, all right? There is a challenge at the bottom of this document. We'll touch base on that as well. So let me do a quick practice with you guys in this open environment. Drew, would you mind being My partner in this one.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I
Awesome.
don't mind. I would be happy to.
So I'm going to just give you the objection up front, okay? Just so we're all clear and make this as simple as possible. We're going to say that your main objection is pricing. Is that
Okay.
fair?
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm going to share the screen again really quickly so everybody can see the process here. All right, so I've asked Drew to work with me, okay? And basically he's given some resistance. He's that 80%. Not a definite yes, not a definite no, somewhere in the middle there. So, hey, Drew, I understand that there's a little bit of hesitation right here.
Mhm.
What's behind that? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, I understand the value, and right now I have some kind of some barriers with our finances. We've had some issues lately, so I vowed I was not going to spend any more money on this right
Sure.
now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that makes a lot of sense. You know, I can understand where you're coming from. Making a decision like this, finances are a little bit tight. So let me just get this straight, right? We've asked the question, understood, now we're identifying. So you see the value in this. You know this would help you. It's just the money's a little bit tight right now. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
Awesome. Okay. Okay. This is where we empathize, right? Hey man, I can totally see why you'd feel that way. Having a lot of financial decisions, it's a big decision. Absolutely get it, right? So we've asked the question, what is that about? We've understood that it's finances. We've identified that he does see value in this. It's just a matter of finances. Now we're in the empathize part. We've understood, we've agreed. Now we got to test it. All right. So here's the big piece here. Agree, however, and by the way, I don't think it's appropriate to actually say but. I want to be very clear. We're in the objection cycle. We're not sitting here going, yeah, but that's not what I'm saying here. That's the conversion. We have agreed right here. Now we're moving into logic, right? We're going. So again, here's that objection. I can't afford it, right? Can't afford it. Okay, I understand. So you like this product, Drew. You want it. It's just a little bit too much for the budget. Is that right?
Correct.
Awesome. So if you could afford it, you would get it today.
Well, I believe I could afford it. My wife says no more spending.
Okay. Okay. So that sounds to me like I need to ask. I need to talk to.
Yep.
Right? So now, and I'm stopping from the video for a second. The reason I'm bringing this up to you guys is we have to fully understand what the real objection is. If you don't actually understand the real objection, you cannot close the deal. So now what I'm hearing from Drew is it's actually not necessarily the finances, but he also has another person that makes a decision in this, right? So, hey, no problem, Drew. I totally understand that. And our company understands that too. But let me ask you this. If your wife comes home and says, hey, babe, I want to spend this much on coaching, legal services, whatever it is, right? What's the first thing she's going to say? How much is it? and again, there's psychology in this. You want to turn your head slowly. It's the no. She's going to say, how much is it? Right? Then you will never get the chance to use this service because she doesn't know the actual value. She just sees the price. So why don't you do what most customers do in your situation? And this is going to be different for everybody, by the way, right? Why don't you do what most customers do in your situation? And then you strategically place that. Most people will, we can wait, or whatever the scenario is, right? Any other questions on this particular point, guys? All right, cool. So here's what we're going to do. If everybody's comfortable with this, we will jump into a breakout room and simply test the quiet model. Now, by the way, I'm going to tell you another piece to this puzzle. It's extremely valuable to give two people options, or people two options. So this might sound like this. Hey, Will, was it the product or was it the price? Was it the product or was it the price? Right? And this is very important data, because if Will says to me, it's actually the product, then that tells me I have not done a good enough job of either identifying his problems, or I've not done a good enough job of driving the value that he will gain. And that tells me that I need to work on my presentation. So this is what I like to do in this situation, by the way, as a joke. Oh man, Will, I'm still figuring this out. I must not have done a good job. Let me start the whole presentation over from the beginning. Okay. Right? He's gonna be, whoa, no. Don't start from the beginning, please. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the room. What I'll ask you to do, it'll just be 2 individuals in a call. Okay. We'll have one person that says, hey, no thanks for your product or service, and use your actual product or service, right? Use whatever your product or service is. Hey man, I'm just not ready to use technical services right now. I'm not ready for a business interrogation guy. I'm not ready for a real estate broker. Whatever it is, put your service in. So we will spend a decent amount of time. Each person should get an opportunity. One person will share, hey, no, I'm not ready. The other person will go through this quiet model. All right, is that fair? You guys have any questions? Okay, cool. So one last time. Question, understand, identify, empathize, and test. All right. It's Will. Yes.
Are you did you send us the document just so we have it in the breakout room, or are the questions gonna be?
Or can you,
No, go ahead, Matt.
or can you put those bullet points in the chat, please? Like I kind of like a cheat sheet.
Yeah, for sure. So let me put that in real quick.
Thank you.
Of course. And I am not the technical guy. It says it's too long. Let me do it in sections real quick.
Well, why don't you just copy the bullet points and just put them in the chat, Keegan?
I did. It said it was too long.
Well, thing is, just copy the what individual words instead.
Yeah. So I'm going. Just let me know if you guys are you guys seeing this?
Yep.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, brother. Yeah, it's good.
And it should stay in, correct? When we go into the breakout room, it should stay there.
I think they fixed that.
No, it won't, because it's a private chat.
Okay.
So that's just the people copy and paste this.
Okay. And again, guys, there's probably a more efficient way that I could have done this. I do apologize.
It's all good, brother. First time. Don't worry. It's all good.
But you guys definitely will receive this, and I think it's a lot easier when you can actually see it. So you'll be able to print this out, put it up in your office or wherever. All right. So, question.
It's still the price. Just kidding. Just kidding.
And that's fine, man. And so let me give you that example. If it is the price still,
Free is too cheap, man. You gotta do better.
so is it too much for the product or is it too much for the budget?
That's a great question.
You see how you always split and you give 2 options? Oh, it's too much for the product. Okay. Let me re-identify the problem and show you the value. If it's too much for the budget, now, by the way, guys, this is just me. This doesn't have to be everybody. I'm a service-based business owner, so I'm on a mission. If I can reduce a price to help somebody else, I'm going to do it. Now, I'm not just going to throw that up right away. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's a little tough. All right, we'll do it for $5. But I'm going to work with people, right? I'm not trying to take food off of anybody's table. This is about serving people. That's what the main goal is here. So I'm going to create some breakout rooms that we can all jump into. And let's go ahead and run this, guys. And we'll come back into here to discuss what we talked about. Everybody good? Cool. Let me jump in too. Hey guys, so if it's all right with you, I'm just going to sit back and see if you guys have any questions, but I'm going to let you 2 run with this. So I don't know if one of you wants to go first, but essentially the best way to do this is just one person ask, hey, would you like this product or service? And the other person's going to say, nah. Then that's where you start: question, understand, identify, empathize, test. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Do either of you prefer to start as the either way?
Doesn't matter. I mean, I'll kick off. It doesn't,
Cool.
whatever. All right, Drew. So love to get you signed up for our virtual production services for your next webinar. I know that we're going to provide a lot of value for you. What's your credit card number so we can get this started?
No, hey Bernie, sounds great. I don't know if I'm really ready to make a decision right now. I'm a solopreneur and I don't know if I need that service now.
Okay. Well, no problem. Let me ask you this though. Have you ever done a workshop where you ran into some technical issues and didn't necessarily know how to resolve them?
I did, yes. That's happened to me.
Okay. Well, it definitely makes sense. And that's something that we're oftentimes able to help with through this service. So you see the value in having that support, right? If you run into technical issues in your webinar. So what do you think that you would gain from being able to rely on somebody else in support of your events?
I'd probably be less frustrated and be able to focus more on the content than I would the technical issues.
I totally agree with you. That is really the main value of the service that we're offering today, is to make sure that your events are smooth, clear, concise, and very engaging. I feel like I should just close again at this point.
Yeah, but by the way, I know this is really weird the first time you do it. You're doing amazing, Bernie. I feel like you have the sheet already on your side. That understanding and the question piece you crush, the identify is really determining what the actual objection is. It's like, okay, so I hear that you're saying that you're not really ready, right? Is that because of a pricing issue or the value? Like, what is that, man? Can you tell me more about that?
Right. Okay. So it sounds like you do see the value in the service. Is it a matter of the pricing, or you just feel like it's not enough value and worth paying the price at this point?
Well, I'd say at this stage in my business, I don't do that many workshops. So for the price that you're suggesting, I really am not sure I can justify that price for the limited amount of workshops I do annually.
Okay, sure. I can see why you might feel that way. However, let me ask you this question. What would be the cost of an event going completely awry for you?
Well, I mean, if I'm charging $97 a head to show up, if I decide to give the money back if technical, that could be the whole thing. I guess I would have to determine if the technical issues compromise the quality of my message. So I really can't put a number on it, but if I don't believe the technology compromised my message, I probably wouldn't make an issue out of it.
Right.
Let me jump on this one, Bernie, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Please.
So Drew, what I'm hearing from you is that it just costs the price. It's the price, right? You're not sure if you're going to gain an ROI on this. Is that correct?
It's a price in comparison to the volume that I'm doing. Yeah.
Price in comparison to volume. Yeah, I mean that totally makes sense. If you're not doing a whole lot of webinars, the price, the volume, totally get that. However, I understand that you like this product, right? It sounds like it might be a little bit too much for the ROI. What if we were able to increase that ROI through this service? Would it make sense for you then?
Then it would. My goal would be really to still make a certain amount of profit if I had your I mean, I did pad a little on the how much I'm making, but yeah, I mean, if you're going to guarantee that it's going to go seamless, that I'm willing to discuss that.
Okay, awesome. So if we can guarantee that you're going to get that value, that ROI, then it would make more sense to go ahead and start this today.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I might have butchered your service there, man, and you did a phenomenal job for the first time ever hearing this stuff, by the way. It is a little clunky and it's hard when you don't have the sheet in front of you, right?
Yeah, I feel like, you know, if I were doing this one-on-one with an actual client, I probably would have jumped on him
Mhm.
after he told me what he's charging for each person, right? So you're telling me that you have 10 people who show up, each of them paying $100 a month, or to show up for the session. My service costs $300. Um, so, you know, it's a 30%, you know, cut ultimately, but, you know, the risk of a poorly done event could cost you $1,000.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, and it goes back to that final piece of using the logic, which is what you just did, right?
Right.
Oh, okay. So, and again, there's going to be data in the actual conversation, but
Right.
okay. So, you know, if my service is $300, you got 10 people in the group and you make $100 a person. So theoretically, if we were able to have a better event, which I know in the next one will have more people showing up for you, you'll get that ROI. Would it make sense for you to do it then?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Good.
Awesome stuff. Drew, would you like to give this a shot, my friend?
Give it a shot. All right. So, Bernie, it was great speaking to you. I really appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing some of the stuff that you've gone through in life. So, you know, we could go to one of two ways in this. We could just, you know, remain friends, and you know, I'll be here for you if you have questions. It may take me a little while to respond with the time I have available, or we can discuss what it's like doing business together. What would you prefer?
Well, you know, I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more about, you know, what doing business with you looks like.
Absolutely, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to you know you know talk to you about that. And I know you had mentioned a lot about in your personal life, a lot of times that you were nearing success and then you got in your own way to kind of derail reaching specific goals, and it's kind of been frustrating you over the course of your life. What I do is I help men. I really support them in designing their own identity. Many times we're living somebody else's life and we don't realize it. So we'll sit down and really allow you to define and design your own identity. And once you know who you are and you know where you're going, man, we're going to remove those self-limiting beliefs that you said you had in getting in your own way. And as you know, those self-limiting beliefs were tied to your old identity. So let's get rid of them because they don't define you. And once we get rid of them, Bernie, you're going to be writing your own story because, like you said, people have been writing it for you. And I'm going to be walking with you along the way because I did this for myself because I went through a lot, and I want to be there for you. So that would be more of what we would do together, and so that's you know the
Awesome.
initial
So ask
stage
for
of
the
working
close
together.
here, Drew. So, and an example of this, you're doing fantastic, by the way. An example of this would be, so when would you like to get started? And that's where the objection comes in.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So providing that fits your your needs, when would you like to get started with that?
Well, you know, Drew, I really don't have a whole lot of additional income right now to be able to put towards something like this.
I totally understand that. I've been in your position many a time before, and so I understand money is the issue. Um, I just want to ask you, a year from now, if you're in the same situation you are now and you don't make a change, what would that feel like?
Would feel terrible.
Okay, then I really and I understand that because again, I've done that, man. I've delayed, and I'm wondering why the heck hasn't anything changed? And you know what Einstein says, definition of insanity, right? We do. So, all right. So now envision a year from now that you do make a change and we work together, and you are your best self, and you are rocking every aspect of your life. How would that feel?
I mean, that would feel great. Obviously, if I'm not worried about my identity and the self, you know, limiting beliefs anymore,
Mhm.
I'd probably be in a better situation.
All right. So thinking about those two, and I understand that feeling. What would it be worth it to you? And I'm not just talking monetarily. What would be worth it to you to be at that best self?
Well, I mean, psychologically, emotionally, I'd be in a better place. I imagine that by being in that better place emotionally and psychologically, my business would probably improve. I would have better relationships with family members and my friends.
I can feel that, man. And you know, the look on your face and your body relaxed sounds wonderful. Now, when you talk about the pricing, is it the value I just described to you? What's holding you back? Or
You
is it
know,
or is it money like your budget at home and unable to really spend on
yeah, I mean, realistically, it's, I put my hand in my pocket and I only feel my leg right now.
it? Oh boy. And I've been there before. So if I introduced you to somebody who could help you with the financing, where they would be able to give you a loan at a reasonable interest rate and you'd pay them back over time, would that be somebody you'd like to speak to so we'd be able to move ahead?
I think it'd be worth a conversation to explore it at least.
All right, absolutely. All right, so I'll tell you what, when would you like to start? Because I am willing to defer payment because I know this is really important to you. So we could work on getting you the financing while we begin working together so you can really feel and experience that value.
Well, I mean, if ultimately the payment is not necessarily an issue or potentially not an issue, we can start next week.
Absolutely. All right. So let's if you have your calendar in front of you, let's get on the calendar. We'll get a date on the calendar and I'll make that introduction to my colleague for you.
Awesome.
Good job,
Awesome.
Drew.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
good stuff, my man. Really good stuff. So I just want to be a couple little things. This is general. I'm going to share this in the group too, that I
Yeah,
just am
yeah.
remembering as we're going through this.
Mhm.
Is one of the most empowering things is you have to assume the sale. In other words,
Mhm.
if you know that your product or service does help this person, they are your ideal client,
Right.
this is the solution,
Mhm.
you're just assuming, and that's where that question is so powerful. When would you like to get started? I'm assuming that you are ready because I'm the professional. I've identified the problem and you've told me, hey, this actually could help, right?
Yeah.
So when Bernie was sharing, his objection was price.
Okay.
And so the number one thing is when we identify that,
Mhm.
that's when we go through the quiet model. So and that's where we get the two options.
I
So
see.
you've
Yeah.
told me it's price, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So is it too much for the service
Mhm.
or is it too much for the budget?
Ask that right up front because that gives you, so
Yes.
you don't have to go down a different road. Okay.
And that's where you go through the you and so forth.
All
So
right. So
so
once
let
I
me do
hear it's price.
yeah, let me do
Well,
that really quickly with you,
got it.
Drew, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
so you've said, hey, are you ready to do this? No, it's too expensive. Just
Well, you mentioned money, and I completely understand that. Is it too much money for the value you'd be getting for the product, for the service with me, or is it too much money for your budget?
exactly,
So
right?
all right, yeah, and one of my holdbacks has been able to catch that appropriate moment. But now, if the trigger is I hear money, I go right to that.
Yep.
That helps me go down that
Well,
road.
here's the beautiful thing. Yes, there are 5 main objections, and yes, those are on the sheet. But for service-based business owners, it's typically value or price.
Okay.
They're not usually saying, "Oh, I've got to go talk to the tooth fairy or a T-Rex or my wife." No, it's usually
Mhm.
we haven't built the value or it is too much.
Uh-huh.
Now, too much is relative. Is it too much for coaching? Is it too much for your budget? Is it too much for your business expenses?
Mm,
That's where the question comes in.
I see.
So I know it's too, I know you're saying it's price. Okay, cool. So Bernie, is that too much for this service or is it just too much for the budget right now? Okay, awesome. It's too much for the budget.
Mhm.
Hey man, I can definitely understand where you're coming from. The way that the economy is right now, things are tight for people. I get it. Let me ask you this though. If it wasn't an issue of money, this would be a no-brainer for you?
I like that one. Okay.
Okay, cool. Cool. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you go back to the close. So, what I'm hearing from you, understand, right? What I'm hearing from you is it's a little bit too much for the budget right now. If that were not an issue, this would be a no-brainer for you, right? Awesome. So let's do this. I don't always do this, man. I don't always do this. However, I'm willing to do this for you. Why don't we do this? I can take $200 off a month. If you're ready to go, I'll send everything over to you and we can go ahead and get started next week. Now, I can only hold that for the next week. How does that sound? Awesome. So that sounds a little bit better. Great. What's a good day and time to get started? I'll send everything over to you now. Right?
Wow. Okay. So go that route, rather than going for all the money like I did, go in for just reducing because you're not devaluing the service of the product. You made it clear that the value is big for him, but it's his budget. So you're reducing it because he needs the help and you don't do it often. So that strikes a better chord than devaluing your product. Okay.
And that, by the way, this is called the drop down approach. That's why it's so effective to have multiple offerings or to start at the highest price point. For example, if I say in my coaching practice, I have a large, a medium, and a small offering, what I may or may not do. Now, again, you've got to be the professional here. Sometimes I just go immediately to the medium. But if I know that they really, really, really need that, they need the additional time, I'm going to say, hey, I'd recommend this. And they go, no, hey, no problem. What people do in your situation is they'll go down to this one. Oh, that's still a little bit too much for the budget. Well, we can check this one out. And when you go to the lowest one, the smallest one, they're going to go, oh, well, I don't think I'm getting the same value for that. Okay, let's go back to the medium. I'll just drop the price a little bit.
And I think it's great that you have the option of offering financing. Because I don't have that option as a fallback for me. Like I would have to lower my price in order to do that. So you have multiple bullets in the chamber, right? That you can go to.
Well, it's also funny too, because even if I don't have a spirit, I can go to PayPal. It's 6 months interest free.
Right. As well, by the way, just so you guys know, Stripe, you can charge people on Stripe and they do 0 interest. And you can do up to 10 grand on there.
Stripe does that 0 interest. I did not know
do that now. Yeah, they just debuted that like a couple weeks ago.
Jeez. Okay.
Under 10K, 0 interest for a whole year. So if you pay it off in a year, you don't pay any interest.
So you would borrow money from Stripe.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But you don't have to get approved for it. You don't have to do a hard pull, hard credit pull, any of that stuff.
That's good. So that can be in anybody's back pocket then.
Anybody's. Yep.
That's beautiful. Thanks for letting us know that.
Of course. So really good conversation, guys. We are going to jump back into the main room. You've really helped me identify some major points that we'll go over in that room. And then we'll probably do like a couple more practices and wrap it up. So anything else specific, just let us know back in that main room.
Right on.
Cool, guys. Oh, 5. There we go. I was like, do I leave or is it going to kick me? Gentlemen, great to see you guys. I know that was a little bit awkward probably for you, but what stood out to you? What'd you learn? What was helpful there?
I think for me, having a little bit of a structure to be able to follow is one piece of it. But having an environment where you can practice without, potentially losing a real deal, walk through the steps is helpful.
Yeah, right. That controlled environment to just be able to test this stuff out. And guess what? We've all been newbies in this, so nobody's judging. It's like, hey, I did the same thing. No big deal, right? So this is a really cool place to just test it out. Thank you for sharing that, Bernie. Anybody else? Will?
Yeah, so with ours, I definitely learned something interesting with so I was with Matt, and my whole model of the personality assessment uses birds to represent the different personality styles. And Matt pulled one out of left field where he just pulled out a bunch of different birds and started asking me the most random questions. And honestly, I was trying to follow the script, but there were moments where I kind of just had to make up and kind of improvise. And I think that was a good learning experience too, is sometimes you're going to have, I don't know if someone's pulling out birds during my call, then that'll be an interesting person to be speaking with, but you sometimes have to improvise. And that was a situation where I was I didn't see myself using the script as much when I wanted to. And I think it's important to not always go by the script sometimes. So that was an interesting takeaway.
Yeah. And by the way, when he mentioned birds and he said dove, guess what I pulled out? So
that's Matt. That's Matt. Gotta love him, man. Yeah, I'll share this. I mean, that's really good information because what you'll learn in this process, and it doesn't matter your product, your service, your industry, it doesn't matter. People will try to distract you, right? If they're that 80%, if they're not ready to buy, they're going to start talking about their tooth. I need to get permission from the tooth fairy. I need to go talk to my dog, whatever it is. So that is something that you have to be really good at. You got to be able to pull back into asking for the close. Drew.
What was helpful for me is I'll tend to overthink, and
You muted yourself.
yeah, my goal this year is to listen more than speak. I meant to lower my hand. And so what you had mentioned, because you were in the room with us, is once the word when I ask, when they say no and it's the pricing, that triggers me to stop, no more talking, and then go right to that. Is it the cost because the value is not good enough, or is it your budget? And I think that saves me from the extra breath that can get us off topic, because right there they gave me the answer of the pain point. I just have to narrow it down. So that was helpful.
Yeah, that was great, Drew. I think the one thing that really stood out for our group and something that is just really important to keep top of mind. Listen, guys, you are the professional. What that means is you should assume the sale. Now, I don't mean just everybody's going to buy from you, but what I do mean is if you have done your appropriate duty to identify the pain point and you do have a solution for them, you're assuming the sale. So it's not a matter of anything other than there's only two objections. Now, again, I'm going to share the sheet with you because depending on your industry, there may be multiple objections, right? There may be I need to speak with somebody else, let me think about it. Those might come up. But more often than not, it's value or price. Value or price. And so what that might sound like is, hey, Drew, so yeah, I know that this is going to help you. Are you ready to get started? You want to start? We can go ahead and get started on Tuesday, or would Thursday work better for you? He's like, whoa. I'm not sure if I'm ready, man. I think it's just a little bit too much. And I can go, okay, cool. Was it the value or was it the price? It was the price. Excellent. Was it, and this is where you're asking the question, right? This is back to Q. Was it too much for the product or was it too much for the budget? Right? And so then that allows me to go, oh, okay. Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from, Drew. It's a little bit too much for the budget right now. Everything that you shared with me, I mean, it makes sense, man. So you like this service or product. You would get a tremendous amount of value out of it. It's just too much for the budget right now. Is that right? Awesome. And that's where you come back here. Yeah, I totally agree. It does sound like a lot for something like this. I mean, you've probably never done anything like this before. But let me ask you this, Drew. Is there any other place in the world where you could invest $500 a month, make yourself, your business, your family, everybody around you better for just $500 a month? Is there anything else that you can think of like that? Then I guess you'd agree, and this is all right here, guys, by the way. Then I guess you'd agree it isn't cheap, but it would be worth the investment. So when most people, and you go back to the close, so what most people do in your situation is they'll do just the middle tier, the middle of the road. And listen, and this is a nugget here I want to share with you guys. I don't normally do this. But if you say, hey man, this makes sense. It's just a little bit tight on the budget, but I know this would change everything for me. Then I can extend this value for just the next 5 days. I'm willing to take $200 off a month. So instead of it being this price, it would only be this much per month. How does that sound? Awesome. Okay. So any other questions? And then I would love to do one more role play with somebody just to hit this home. Any other questions here?
Chris
All right,
didn't buy.
go
Chris
ahead.
didn't buy. Chris didn't buy because he said I was too cheap. He told
You
me
put
that's
the-
too much value for what you're charging, Daniel.
You put too much military brilliance in one room there, Keith.
So by the way, this will happen. This actually can happen. You know, there will be people that will say, wow, you are really good at what you do, but you're only charging $200 a month. What's the catch? And so if something like that comes up, by the way, then this is where multiple offerings are really healthy for your business. Hey, Chris, I hear you, man. It does sound like it's too much value for that price. What most people do in your situation, and that's one of the kickers, right? What most people do in your situation is they'll actually join our retreat instead of the one-on-one. And that does cost a little bit more, but you're gonna get so much value there. How does that sound? Okay.
Yeah, I will say, he dropped a one-liner on me, and I was like, "Yep, we're going for dinner and going home after that." I was like, "Damn," because I was expecting him to say like, "Hey, well, is it the price or is it what is it?" And 30 seconds in, he says, "Well, what's it costing you now?" And I was like, "Shit, all right, I'm signing," because it's so true. I didn't call for help for a $500 problem, $1,000 problem. It's probably costing me thousands or tens of thousands that I needed to call a third person to come in.
That's right.
So yeah, he had me sold it like right after he said that, 30 seconds into our conversation.
I love that.
Normally, I'm not a good salesman, but when I pretend, I can sell.
Well, Daniel's a master at asking really good questions. And I think that's really a great derivative for all of this, right? Because if you can't identify the pain point, if you can't identify the objection, you're just not going to close deals. And the truth of the matter is, every man on this call only has so much time in every day. You only have so many calls, so many opportunities every day. You know, they used to say, love the person you're with. If you have one call for the day, you got to give that person everything you've got, right? Matt, go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. I know you've been waiting.
No worries, dude. So one of the things that I mentioned to Will, which I'll mention to everybody else, is especially if you're in an industry that has a lot of competitors, is how different are you? How do you stick out basically like an 80-year-old on Viagra? And so the whole idea, exactly, it's very uplifting, and I get the point. So anyway, how do you sit there and give something so unique that nobody else will do it? How do you sit there and provide something of substance that you can't find, you can't duplicate online? So, for example, when Will and I were role playing, as I was listening to him tell who he is, what he does, I was improvising different strategies to sit there and to throw him off. And so, by just listening to him, not being dismissive, and of course getting my, ages 3 and up props going. So it's just a matter of the fact that somebody may forget your face, they may forget your name, but they usually won't forget how they treated you or how they made you feel. So the one thing I do, especially in IT, I give as many options as possible that are not only just viable, but make sense. So it's almost like the Chinese buffet of different technology options where you have this, this, and this. And I can say, these are the pros and cons of all these procedures. Whether I make money or not, this is what should happen. And these are the reasons to do it and reasons not. So what's going to feel right to you? So in that respect, you give people power and control, you give them multiple options, and then you hear them out. But being naturally empathetic helps. The problem is when you deal with people that are narcissists with their money, they don't need your services. They need Dr. Phil. So that's a part of the problem there as well, is that if people think that only their money spent on themselves or other things is worthwhile and you don't deserve anything, then you're fighting City Hall at that point. So just throwing it out there, be yourself, everybody else is taken, as the saying goes.
Yeah, man. And again, from a business stance, the competitive advantage. What is your competitive advantage? So one thing that I'd love to do with you guys real quick, if everybody's okay with this, is let's do one last role play and then we'll close out. Is that fair? Cool. So Sid, would you mind participating with me on this one, my friend?
Absolutely, sir.
Awesome, awesome. So, well, I'll just use what's in front of me. Okay. So at this point in time, Sid and I have had a really good conversation, right? And this isn't real, guys, by the way. This is all made up. This is all arbitrary made up. Okay. This is not real stuff. Sid and I had a great conversation, and I have identified that I could definitely help him with my services, right? I know that there's a couple identity factors, and if we were to iron those out and correct some things, that it would change the trajectory of his life. And with that, he'd make more money, better relationships, all the good stuff. So I know this is a good product for him. Okay. So at this point, I'm saying, hey, Sid, so listen, man, we have two options at this point. All right. We can continue to be friends, and I'm here to support you, although I have limited time. So I might not be able to answer right away, but I'll do whatever I can to support you. The other option is we could discuss what it would look like to work together. What makes the most sense to you?
What would it look like for us to work together?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive down that road. So it would look like blank, 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 right? Okay, awesome. So you ready to get started? Just say no. Just say no. Nah, man, I'm not ready.
I'm not ready.
Okay, okay, cool. What's behind that? What's did I not do a good enough job of providing the value? Is the price like what's the reason that you're not ready to do this today?
I need to speak to my partner.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what I'm hearing is this is a large decision, and you don't want to make this decision until you speak to your partner. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Happy wife is a happy life.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that all the time. I can definitely understand where you're coming from. This is a big decision. You know, you want to talk to your partner, make sure you're doing the right thing. However, when we leave this call and you go to speak to your wife, what's the first thing she's going to ask you?
How much should I spend?
How much does it cost? You see the psychology there? How much does it cost? And you tell her, and she's going to say no. Why? Because she wasn't on this call with us. She didn't have the conversation. She doesn't see or understand the value here. Right? You guys with me?
Absolutely.
So, and I'm just going back to the sheet on this one. So, I lost myself here. Yeah.
I
So,
love
anyway,
it.
good.
No, I was gonna say I love that, Drew. Happy house is a happy. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you is you really want to speak with your wife. This is a big decision, and you don't want to let anybody down. Again, the first thing she's going to say is, how much does it cost? And then you're not going to have the opportunity for us to work together. So we've identified that this will help you, right? This is going to move your life forward and your business forward. It's going to provide the change you need, right? So what if, and I want to share this one with you guys real quick, by the way,
It's 7 o'clock.
this is a really good way to implement this. And I know we're at the end of time, guys. Just bear with me real quick. This is really good, right? And you guys can use this. So here's the conversation we're having, right? We're saying that you want to speak with your wife, and the problem is the only thing she's going to hear is that price point, right? So here's the deal. You and I built up all this value. We understand how this is going to help you. Here's the thing. 5 minutes after you and I get off this call, that's what you're going to remember about what we talked about today, right? And then you guys are going to have dinner. This is what you're going to remember after that.
Unless, okay.
Right? And so after dinner, you got kids. You guys do video games together. I love that. You probably can go spend some time with your kids, right? And so then at that point, this is all that you're going to remember. So by the time you go to speak to your wife, the only thing that you're going to remember at this point is the same thing that she cares about, and that's the price. And then what's going to happen? You and I are not going to have the opportunity to work together. And then you and I are going to have a conversation 2, 3, 6, 10 months down the road. You'll be in the same place. What is that going to do to your life, your business, and your relationship if you weren't to make that decision? Right? So why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and get started next week? We can start on Tuesday or Thursday. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Awesome, man. I'll go ahead and send everything over, right?
Yep.
So anyway, guys, thank you for having this conversation with us tonight. I hope you gained some value. I know this is a lot of very in-depth stuff. If you want further assistance, and I'm going to share this in the chat one more time, if everybody could, if you could please go ahead and schedule a quick call. And that way, again, I just have a couple simple questions for you. Oops.
Yeah, and in terms of that paper, Keegan, it was like Robin Thicke, it was blurred lines. Because really the paper actually had blurred lines, you know, on your webcam. So
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, listen, if you ever want to use that, that's called the paper close.
oh.
So that's a good one, right? All right, guys, thank you so much. If you haven't already, please set that call up between us. I will send this out to everybody. If you have any questions, let me know. Of
All right, thank you for having this, Keegan. I appreciate you, dude.
course, guys. Have a great night. Thank you for
All
your
right,
time.
take care.